I grinded over 50 games of Chimera to finally give you this. This is gonna be the best, most in-depth combo breakdown for Chimera post Supreme Darkness, and it goes through every single step, potential pivots. After cooking this list for like all those games, what you finally realize is that all three engines can bridge into all three of the other engines. It's pretty wild, and if you master all of the different lines, it's gonna be like water. You're gonna be so fluid with it, your opponent won't know your next move. It's crazy. Be like water, my friend, like Bruce Lee. Gonna give you guys a deck list, give you guys the combo line. Let's do this. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell. Leave your comments down in the comment section if you have additional things to add or things to kind of spice up the deck. I mean, if you want to change it up, push it even further, put the entire Fight for package back in. I think it's actually worth it to play this deck at a higher deck count, but that's just me. All right, let's go. So here's how we're gonna do the deck list. We've got the Simple Spoiled Dia Start Azamina engine, we have the Fiendsmith engine, and the Chimera engine, all in its own individual package. We got the hand trap stack and just a little bit of extra tech just to move on with our list, just to complete it, to round it out. Starting with Sinful Spoils, we have 2 Deceptions. Now, no, this is the weakest card in the entire deck, a Detonator, which is currently in the meta. I can just blow it up. Either you can blow it up right away or can blow it up after you activated Halo Azamina, so you can definitely cut down the copies of Deception and kind of reboost it for maybe more copies of Witches, because I've also cut the Witch down because I didn't want direct access to the Deception right away, and because Detonator is also not 1% return. There's just so many opportunities for this to get blown up, so this is not the engine I want to start with, but it's a good one to follow up with. 2 Wanted, and finally the other cards here. We have 1 Sinful Spoils of the White Forest and 1 Hallowed Azamina. I kind of want to up the count of this card because it just feels like I have more abilities to play Polymerization against my opponent. It is what it is. This is still a really fantastic card to help dodge cards, and some people kind of forget that this also summons out the illusions and spellcasters in your hand as long as you control one of the appropriate typing. So you can use this to summon out like a Mirror Sword Knight and just rebridge into like Berflement in case you do get eaten by like multiple hand traps. Then, the Fiendsmith engine, which used to be just like a Fiendsmith, a Lacrima, Evil Hero Necrom, and the last card is going to be the Dusted Gold. It used to be this. When I was playing a 40 card variant, that made a lot of sense, but it made it so that the Engraver was a super dead card in your hand if you drew it, because you had no way to toss it into the graveyard. So because we need to toss it into the graveyard, we put the track back in. If we're going to be playing track, we're going to be playing Lurie, and if we're going to be doing all that, we're going to be playing the triple Engraver. So this is going to go back to triple Engraver. It's nice to commit cards, to make your opponent commit cards as well, and you can do follow-ups on that. And I think that's actually pretty key for this format. This deck is definitely not going to be able to compete with Ryziel if you're going to play with that old standard. And based on like the win rate, this particular version, a 50 card version, was much more successful than the 40 card version. So this is why I upped it. I've been spending a very long time on this. And of course, if you're going to be getting halfway through your combo, because we're in a hand trap heavy format, the Lacrima, Paradise with the Requiem, even half a line gives you a disruption to get you your turn back, and you have a lot of graveyard follow. Now, as for the Chimera engine, of course we have triple Chimera Fusion, right? Let's just get this out of the way. So we have triple Chimera Fusion because we want to abuse this card and use this as one of our key sources of disruption later on. But one of the key new cards is going to be the Azamina LZ, which is likely going to get searched by the Nightmare Apprentice if you didn't have Gazelle. Essentially, these 3 pieces kind of search into each other. You know, your triple Apprentice, your Gazelles, these are your key summons in the entire deck, okay? So with the triple Nightmare Apprentice, you can dig for this. As long as you can use this to fuse and eventually synchro it off, and that's why Chaos Angel is so important, you can use this card to bridge into your Sinful Spoils, giving you the Azamina side, and any 2 monsters will eventually just bridge back into Fiendsmith, so that's how these 3 engines kind of point at each other. So yeah, triple Gazelle, this is your key normal summon, alright? We have only 1 Berflement, which you can summon back from the graveyard, which is very easy, and you don't like to brick on this because this is one of the worst cards to brick on. And we have 2 copies of Mirror Sword Knight and 2 copies of Kodal. They are technically normal summons as well, and I'm not a fan of having too many normal summons because that's actually how you lose to a single hand trap, and that is one issue with the deck. If you open a handful of just these cards, 1 copy of Ash, and you're gonna be struggling. That's why you need to bridge into other special summon based engine like Fiendsmith, like the Abel Star engine. Now, hand trap wise, we can start with the most important one, Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler, being a light spellcaster, bridges into the Azamina line if you have the LZ, because this is the perfect fusion material for the Murcielago. You get the Azamina line, you can set up the Omni Negate pretty early and still re-bridge back into the Azamina line. later on. So that's the effectiveness of being a hand trap and a fusion material. Then we have triple Fuelos, triple Ash, and because of the malice and the amount of banishing and the bestials, we are playing Ghost Spell. It's very easy to banish out your cards, and maybe keeping a Fiendsmith in your graveyard makes it a lot harder for your opponent to play. Then the Ghost Spell is going to work wonders for you. And finally, the triple Imperm. So that's the hand trap lineup. Although personally, I think we could probably just up the hand trap count, or maybe alter it so that it's a little bit more going second friendly with like Forbidden Droplets, something along those lines. And with Mitsurugi, it makes sense as well to play the Ghost Spell. But anyways, we were playing triple Tactics Talent and 1 copy of Call by the Grave. You can switch the triple tack for going first, or maybe you can change out some of the hand traps, go 1-1-1 off of these hand trap lines, and then put in triple crossout. And I highly recommend that you guys try out Chaos Hunter in this build over the Lancia, simply because you have the Fiend access, so that you can quite easily just special summon out your Chaos Hunter more or less for free. It's a Fiend monster, so it's very easy to dump into the graveyard, and then you can use like a Bow to just summon it back onto the field, and your opponent will be locked out. If you're playing against Runic, if you're playing against Bestial, Malice, it's almost an instant OTK. Alright, for the extra deck, this is essentially 4 different packages. Starting with the Fiendsmith package, we have 1 Moon of the Close Heaven for any 2 monsters going into the Fiendsmith package. We have the Fiendsmith Requiem, the Sequence, and we have 1 Wave King Caesar, and we have the Desiree. Now, to go into Wave King Caesar, we're using Aerial Eater to do it rather than using Necrocurt Princess. Otherwise, it would be also nice if we can fit that in. Then the Chimera package is made up of Chimera, the King of Phantom Beast, Baphomet, which is your first actual summon and one of the most important pieces, which is why you can kind of try to double up. Then we have 1 Guardian Chimera for the Chimera Fusion to kind of pop off some cards. But the most important piece here that actually is part of comboing is Aerial Eater. Aerial Eater is one of your bridging pieces so that you can dump Baphomet into the graveyard, your Chaos Hunter into the graveyard, whatever that you want to play. This is the one that dumps it into the graveyard to enable it. And then finally, we have Chimera the Illusion Beast. This is the true tech spot. You can use this to double up on Baphomet. You can use this to put it into Magnum the Reliever so you have additional disruption. This is the key card to allow you to do it. This card likely not going to see very much play, but I like the option because I tend to like breaking a board halfway through and then just kind of just going to this card and finish your opponent off. Any good Chimera player understands that this is one of your key OTK components to break through boards that are quote-unquote unbreakable by just winning the game. Then we have the Azamina package, starting with a new member, well, not new, but the most important member now in the combo piece, which is Moa Regina. Moa Regina can summon back any illusion from your graveyard. You activate a Sinful Spoil or Azamina card, it's going to pop 2 cards on the field. Then there's Murcielago and, of course, Ilya Sylvia. Let me do this, it's a little bit brighter. Cool. And then finally, the last 2 tech piece. Well, this is not a tech piece. This is a must-play piece. Chaos Angel. If you don't have it, you can't play this deck because this is your only way to synchro without a tuner. And with Moa Regina summoning back the LZ, you're summoning this, and now you have access to a Light Dark Chaos Angel, plus you have access to the Azamina engine. And finally, a Bow to summon back anything in your graveyard and act as a disruption. So this extra deck is super tight. 1 space available for any modification, which is why maybe you should double up on the Baphomet. All right, check out MSTmerch.com. MSTmerch.com. I got to do a quick little plug right here so that you guys can check out MSTmerch.com and check out our sleeve collection. Yeah, we got lots and lots of sleeves. Yeah, and box dividers. Yeah, I'm trying to get this thing done within 30 seconds. Yeah. Okay, I'm pretty tired. Okay, guys, you guys get the idea. Box dividers, start your collection. I started my collection. NFT up your binder, but oversleeve as well. You got sleeves, oversleeves, box dividers, everything you need. And we got a new essential product coming up very soon. Check out MSTmerch.com and keep the savings to you. First fundamental combo is how to just 1 card combo with Nightmare Apprentice. You can pivot however you want based on the other cards in your hand, but we're going to go with the baseline of Nightmare Apprentice plus a monster. If you don't have a monster, I'll talk about it when it matters, but let's just get this thing going. Starting off with the special summon of Nightmare Apprentice, we'll throw away 1 of the triple attack in our hand, and our hand's going to remain right here. This is going to search us our Cornfield Kotal, Cornfield Kodo effect, we're gonna switch that into our Gazelle. Gazelle, this is gonna help you fetch Chimera Fusion. So normal summon the Gazelle, and if this gets thwarted, then you can go into Moon of the Closed Heaven and just start making your Fiendsmith land. But in the case that we do successfully get the Chimera Fusion, we play the fusion right here. We fuse the Gazelle and the Nightmare Apprentice together, and that forms our Baphomet. Should be the Chain Link 2 this time because the Gazelle's a little bit more important. So Gazelle Chain Link 1, Baphomet Chain Link 2. We need to fetch into our hand LZ, the Azamina of the White Forest, and the Baphomet is going to dump into the graveyard the Necron. We can activate the LZ that's in our hand and special summon it, and don't forget to add back your Chimera Fusion to give you a little bit of leeway to deal with stuff that targets like Imperm. And so we special summon with the LZ. We'll activate the LZ effect to perform a fusion summon for an Azamina monster, Moa Regina. Moa Regina can summon back any illusion monster, and if you activate an Azamina card, you can chain, or any sinful spell you can chain, and you get to destroy 2 cards, but that comes up later. For this, we're going to revive back our LZ, and this is going to perform our first synchro summon, so we're going to synchro these 2 together into Chaos Angel. Well, Chaos Angel is light dark, so this is going to stick onto the field for a very, very long time. And the LZ will now trigger. The LZ trigger will help you add. Now here's the part where if you don't have a monster, then you have to add Wanted. If you do have a monster, then you can go straight for Deception. So say we do have our monster this time, which is going to be our Ghost Spell. We're gonna get this into our hand. We're gonna activate the Deception. We're gonna use the Deception effect, and we're send one to the graveyard, getting the Hallowed Azamina. Summon out the Murcielago. If you got that far, I don't think they're going to hand trap you anymore anyway. That's just a fact. And from here, first of all, the Murcielago is going to add a card into your hand, and that's where it's going to get your Wanted. And then the add back is going to come from the Hallowed Azamina. We're going to activate it, and we're going to put back our LZ back into the deck. And this is going to go back to hand because we can put back any Azamina monster, so we're going to choose to put the effect monster so we don't have to burn the Murcielago. Now we're going to activate the Hallowed Azamina. We're going to chain the Wanted on top. Wanted is going to fetch us the Black Witch, and the Hallowed Azamina will get us our Omni Negate of Silveria, and that sets up the Silveria line right here. Now you can draw an additional card right now. I don't think you need to unless you really want to get the Diabell Star out right away, but you can use the Fiendsmith line to kind of bridge that part together. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Necrom that we put into the graveyard earlier, activate the Necrom now, and the whole point is that you overload your opponent to the point where there's not enough hand trap to deal with every single line you have, and you work with what you have. Now we're going to summon out the Adusted Gold. Adusted Gold Link summon into our Requiem effect. We're gonna summon into our Lacrima effect to put the Engraver into the graveyard. Alright, so this part is mostly set up now. If you want to get the free Witch here, you just activate the Requiem, equip, and then you can send the Requiem to the graveyard to summon out the Diabell Star. Diabell Star effect, that's going to give us the Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. This is going to help get us that additional fusion and that trigger against your opponent when we have the Moa Regina on the board. So, we haven't really summoned back our Engraver just yet, but we can save that for later. We're going to link off our Witch and our Lacrima, and that's summoning into our Fiendsmith sequence effect. We're gonna put back the Lacrima and the Requiem, all right, and that's going to summon out Aerial Eater. Aerial Eater will dump into the graveyard the Big Wing Baphomet, as that is a fiend-based monster. And from here, we can work around a few different ways. If you want to keep your board like indestructible by battle, then you'll leave the Chaos Angel. But if you want to get additional negation against your opponent, such as summon-based effects, well, then you can just activate the Fiendsmith's Engraver, and you can put back your copy of Adusted Gold, and summon out the Engraver, overlay these two, and you can use that to get your DDD Wave Hiking Caesar. So how are we going to deal with the Baphomet? Well, we're going to take the Murcielago and the Fiendsmith sequence and the Chaos Angel, and we're going to summon Abao. We're going to use Abao's effect. We're going to toss away one of our additional cards, and we're going to choose the effect to summon back, and we're going to summon back Big Wing Burfo. And this is going to temporarily banish herself till the end of the turn. This is now going to trigger. That's going to add to our hand a Chimera Fusion and another copy of Gazelle. So this is back to our hand now. And we can just activate the Chimera Fusion to rip a card out of our opponent's hand by using the Baphomet And we're locked into fusions anyway at this particular point. So we can summon out Chimera, the King of Mythical Beasts, or King of Phantom Beasts. We're going to summon it a little bit further away, or you can summon it up here so that you have better zoning. And this is going to trigger, and also you're also going to trigger the Big Wing Burfo. Big Wing Burfo can summon back any of your illusions. So we're going to summon back our Moa Regina. And Moa Regina, we'll just put it right here. And once you get to the end of the turn, if you don't want the additional draw, you can get back your Deception. But if you want to draw the card before that happens, you can go for the Wanted. You can banish the Wanted, put back the Deception to the bottom of the deck, and then you're going to be able to draw an additional card, in which case perhaps it's going to be this one here. And that's kind of what leads to the additional card. And then you get to also set your Chimera Fusion. So this is the back row here. And during the end phase, this also returns back onto the field, giving you the additional disruption. Ideally, you would have a monster in your hand, so you have Guardian Chimera access. But there's other things that you can do when you get to the Aerial Eater point, where you can dump like a Chaos Hunter, and you use the Chaos Hunter to kind of lock your opponent with a bow summon back. And now it's kind of a very awkward position for your opponent to be in. So yeah, apparently that's like one of the weird things that you can do to your opponent to lock them out, especially if you're playing against those banish-based matchup. But yeah, that was a fundamental combo that everyone should kind of figure out when you're playing Chimera now. This is Fiendsmith Engraver solo combo, and we're going to add one additional card into this combo. You can adjust to your own needs personally, but I think this is going to work rather well. You can even tech in your Chaos Hunter instead, and you can work around it during your opponent's turn as well. So this is the opportunity of how to dig out your stuff that's light and dark, or go for a Diabelzi protection. So we're going to start off with the Engraver. Normally we've been a super dead play, but you get to add Tract in this line, add Tract, and we're going to dump Lurie into the graveyard. Add to hand, dump to the graveyard. Activate Lurie, special summon itself. Lurie is now going to link summon into Requiem. Requiem effect. Summon out Lacrima. Lacrima effect. Let's drop another Fiendsmith into the graveyard. Activate the Engraver to summon itself back onto the field, and we're going to put back, it doesn't really matter what we put back here, let's put back the Lurie, and then we're going to perform a Link Summon once again. And that's going to summon into our Fiendsmith sequence, and right now we're not just solo relying on Fiendsmith Desiree, we're trying to build an actual board that, you know, locks our opponent out slightly if we're going to go for that line. Unless you feel like 4 hand traps is enough. Well, this one probably, definitely won't be, because you only really have Ash. So we're going to activate this, and we're going to go for the sequence effect. We're going to put back the 2 Engravers because we want to keep the Requiem and Lacrima alive. Fusion summon out our Aerial Eater effect, and that's going to dump into the graveyard a Baphomet. It can only dump a Fiend, and now we have to burn our normal summon. We'll normal summon of Fuelos, and now we perform our Link Summon of Abao. Activate the Abao. We're going to throw another copy of Fuelos into the graveyard. This is getting kind of costly, and we're going to summon back our Baphomet, banishing itself till the end of the turn. Baphomet effect, we're going to get the Chimera Fusion and also the Gazelle. We're going to activate the Chimera Fusion. We already burned our normal summon, so we can just use the Big Wing Burfo and the Gazelle, fusing those two together, and we are definitely going for our Burfo, unless you think you have enough disruption. If you have enough disruption, then straight up just go for the hand rip and just minimize and simplify the game state. But Burfo offers you a lot more fun stuff here. So we're gonna go for Chain Link 1 and the other Big Wing Burfo. Big Wing Burfo, this is where you drop your tech piece. You can drop your tech piece, you can revive it during your opponent's turn. There's many different ways to kind of mess with your opponent, especially when you have Floodgate-esque monster. I'm going to drop Diabelzi here, but Sinister Necron will generate 2 additional bodies for you if you want that as follow-up against your opponent. By all means, go for it, but in any case, I'm going to drop Diabelzi in this case, and then I'm also going to search Nightmare Apprentice. Because Nightmare Apprentice is going to stay alive, so I can usually get that summon off. And then Nightmare Apprentice, we're going to discard card to get that summon, so we're going to use that to add the LZ. Activate the LZ special summon, and we're going to perform the activate the LZ for the fusion summon to Moa Regina. Moa Regina is going to activate its effect, and that's going to summon back a Diabelzi onto the board. And so from here, during that end phase, before that, we're going to activate the Chimera Fusion, add this back to hand, and a Bow comes back onto the field during the end phase. This is the kind of board you can end with. And it kind of stuns out your opponent a little bit, because even in the graveyard, you still have the Lacrima into Requiem. So you're working with 1, 2, and you have a Floodgate S play here. And if you have additional monsters, which you can quite easily get even more because you can go Abao again. And if you go for the Abao, you can summon back Big Wing Burfo to load your hand so that you can make a Guardian Chimera for that line. And you still have Diabelze, so Diabelze can do that pop-based play. And even if you do the pop-based play, you can target Abao. Abao can chain, throw away your last card, get your other card back, and you can use that to manipulate the resources against your opponent. But this is what one Fiendsmith has to offer compared to what it did before. You saw the Nightmare Apprentice, but does the Witch end on the same stuff? Let's find out, starting off with a special summon of Witch, send the Fuelos, get into our Deception. This is probably the weakest line of them all. Going into the Deception, activate Deception, we're going to tribute away the additional monster in hand. This will provide us Hallowed Azamina. Activate Hallowed Azamina. We are going into Murcielago because we need the additional body and we want to follow up as well. This is going to send these away. Murcielago effect, that's going to fetch into our... We're going to grab Wanted because Wanted is one that will generate us an additional plus. Okay. From here, we're going to link these two off into Moon of the Closed Heaven. I mean, this part kind of reminds us back into the Fiendsmith days when Fiendsmith Azamina was one of the biggest decks. Now we're going to activate the Hallowed Azamina. We're going to put back the Murcielago back into the deck, adding this back into the hand. Activate the Hallowed Azamina, and we're going to chain the Wanted. Add back, I guess just because I'm lazy, I'm just going to add this copy back into my hand. We'll summon out our Omni Negate of Silveria. We're going to link into Requiem. Requiem effect, Lacrima effect, put Engraver. Now since we already summoned out Witch, we can't really summon out Witch anymore, so we can just kind of pursue our next move here. We're going to summon back the Engraver, we're going to put back Moon of the Closed Heaven, summon these two together. What we're going to pursue here is that we're going to link these two off. Sequence effect, we're going to put back our Requiem and our Lacrima, and that's going to summon out Aerial Eater. Aerial Eater effect, we drop Burfament into the graveyard. If you have one additional normal summon here, this is where you would drop the normal summon. Take all three of these. Link summon to Abao. You can go Abao effect, throw away the Witch that you got earlier or the additional other card you have, and this is going to summon back the Burfament. Burfament effect, get Gazelle, Chimera Fusion, activate Chimera Fusion, use these two together, Burfo. Then there is the Burfament effect. If we have any illusions in the graveyard, which we do not have any established, I mean, there is a way to set up an illusion, which is you use a Silvera, but then you run into like endgame hand trap where like, oh, I'm just gonna hit you with the hand trap at the very end. Yeah, you can summon this back for sure. But in any case, since we have nothing here, Chainlink on Chainlink 2, we're gonna dump a card into the graveyard and we're gonna add one back into our hand. And the card that we're gonna dump in, just dump this into the graveyard, the Apprentice, and Elzet. Special summon on Elzet. We're going to perform a fusion summon. We're locked into fusions right now. We're going to fuse into our next Azamina. Azamina Regina. Activate the More Regina. Summon out the Witch's Apprentice. Witch's Apprentice, or rather Nightmare Apprentice. And add to our hand. And this is, again, this is an added card. You don't have to run this if you don't want it, but I'm playing it because now you can just add to your hand. And if you look at your graveyard, you already loaded it with Sinful Spoil cards, which means you can special summon this card to protect your other lines. And not to mention that you can also add back the Chimera Fusion that was in the graveyard, so you have a little bit of extra play right there. Finally, at the end here, we're going to activate the Wanted to put the Deception back so that you get one additional card draw. Alright, so that was the card that we kind of put back. And then at the end phase, of course, the About comes out. So this is kind of the end board that we're looking at right here. So this is the one Diabel star plus another card, and you have a normal summon. This is the full push that you can actually really go for. So if you have a handful of hand traps, this is still available for you. That's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, we've got some new decks coming up. Blue Eyes is going to be one that's coming in a couple of weeks, so look forward to that. It's going to be really, really awesome. I mean, this format is kind of going pretty wide in terms of the amount of decks. Maybe we're going to go break down what are some of the best decks out there. Is your deck going to be part of it? Well, I've got my opinion on that as well. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you all in the next next one. Bless your polls. Good luck in your upcoming YCSs.